everybody. Welcome to Rachel's Reviews and another episode of the Female Film Critics Panel. And today we are talking about the best of 2023. It's something I always look forward to, the best and worst of 2023. We're talking movies. It's going to be so fun. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Manda's here.
Hi, I'm so happy to be back. I can't wait to do this.
Yes, and Molly's here.
Yay! I'm happy to be back as well.
Yes. So before we dive in, would you say to both of you, would you say that 2023 has been a good year of cinema, or kind of or somewhere or not good? What do you think, Manda?
I think there's been like a steadiness, like with everything that's come out. There's been a wide variety. I do think that the films that were bankable at the box office fizzled, especially Disney films, comic book movies. They haven't done that well. So we have had like amazing surprises, like with Barbie and Oppenheimer. So I think that this has been a year of like the tide shifting. And we can feel that. And it's been jam-packed with movies. And I love that there's so much variety, from like studio comedies to indies to really, really compelling dramas. It's a very different landscape this year. But yeah, it's been steady with everything else except for the ones that have been bankable for like the past 5 years. So it's interesting.
Yeah. What do you think, Molly? Do you think it's been pretty good, or where are you?
I think it actually really has been very good. I actually was happy to see that more original films were making more money than big IP stuff, and I like that Killers of the Flower Moon made over $100 million when The Irishman only made like 60 million, and then Oppenheimer almost making $1 billion at the box office. And I was like, yes, this is what I want to see. And I think it's going to be also, I would not be surprised if we also get that with Poor Things, because apparently Poor Things is doing amazing.
Yeah, its per theater average was really, really high, which was awesome. Surprising. Because it's a lot, that movie.
It's just funny.
Talk about it. I'm excited.
Yeah, like I actually did recommend it, but it's just it's the movie that you think that's not going to be for everyone.
No, and I think that for it to do so well in theaters right now, many people are going into this just for Emma Stone, and they're not thinking like, I'm watching a Yorgos Lanthimos film. They have no idea who the director is. Meanwhile, the people who have been there since, like, I don't know, like The Lobster, Killing of a Sacred Deer, they know what they're getting themselves into, but
which is surprising. Like, you think they would get that message when you saw her in The Favorite, also by Yorgos Lanthimos. So
I know.
Think to yourself, like, they'll understand now. They'll get it. Nope.
Yeah. Nope.
Well, I would say that it's hard for me to say that it's been a good year for movies when it's been so bad for Disney. I mean, it's given some other people and other creators an opportunity to kind of step up to the plate.
Yeah.
But boy, I mean, aside from Guardians, I don't think they had anything that I liked. I mean, unless you count something like Poor Things, which was technically Disney. I mean, almost nothing that I liked from Disney, and almost nothing that anybody liked from Disney.
It's tough out there. That's all I gotta say, because it's like, maybe everyone's like, we're so back with Disney, and it's like, no, it's like Guardians was up here and then just went downhill for the rest of the year. So it was frustrating.
But it has been very interesting, and we'll talk about some surprises. But I feel like it has been a year that we've embraced a lot of experimental, different, strange, messy movies. I thought Barbie was pretty messy. It would be a surprise for me, just in the sense of how much it was embraced. And I always felt like I was a bit of an outsider with how much I like Barbie. And so I was like, oh, everyone else is Barbie. Oh, how fun.
I know.
And so that was fun. And I mean, just something like Spider-Verse doing so well, which was so ambitious. And here now we had Boy and the Heron winning the weekend.
Yes.
And so there's just been a lot of really interesting surprising kind of experimental films that have been taking risks, and have been paid off. So all right, well, let's get the negative out of the way first. How about that? We talk about our worst of the year. I said try to come up with a top 5 and a bottom 3. So my worst of the year, I just saw it last week, even worse than my second worst. It was on Netflix, which I don't even know if it counts as like a real movie, whatever. It's Family Switch was just
I was just reading about that today, and I was like, it's Mick G. What did you expect?
I hated it so much. I mean, it had to resort to incest humor, to long flatulence humor, long jokes. It made the teenage characters really stupid, and that they wouldn't be able to like figure out basic things, that they would know nothing about their parents, that she doesn't know, like she's going into this like super important meeting for her mother. She doesn't know that her mom's lactose intolerant. Like, I mean, just like basic things that you would know. And it had such a funny premise, and they did nothing with it. And even the baby and the dog switching wasn't good. And I just hated it a lot. It was terrible.
Damn.
It was one of the only things on Hallmarky's podcast I've ever given 0 to.
It hurts. It hurts so much. I had fun with that one.
You did.
I had fun. I'm like, maybe because I love Jennifer Garner so much. I'm like, she's like the ultimate mom. But I do, now that you say all of that, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense that it was just like very out of convenience, the jokes and the punchlines. I definitely get that. So there's a lot of setup, and you could tell that it was set up. So like, I get what you're saying, but yeah. Because
I was thinking that we might want to do a whole episode of Hallmarky's podcast about it, because it was this like kind of a surprise Christmas movie. I didn't realize it was a Christmas movie. So then I was like, oh, because we've covered all the Freaky Friday movies on Hallmarky's podcast, and enjoyed those. And so I was like, oh, this would be so fun. And I love your name, which is body swapping. I love body swapping, but
you're like, no,
not for me. Not for me at all. And what about you, Manda? What's your worst?
I do like 1.5 stars, because like sometimes I'll like one actor in the movie and I'm like, it's not your fault you're in this. So I give 1 star to the actor. So I actually have Pain Hustlers in like my third.
I didn't see this.
So I had thought for the longest time that this was directed by Adam McKay. Okay, because I watched that trailer and I'm like, this says it's McKay all over the place. Like, this is McKay. And then it wasn't directed by Adam McKay. And I was like, how are you mimicking everything that this man did in The Big Short? It was like a poor man's version of The Wolf of Wall Street. And it's all about, big pharma, like pharmaceutical companies and all of that. And I'm like, you have like literally Emily Blunt, you have Chris Evans, you have Annie Garcia, like these are awesome like actors. And it was just the most boring thing that I have watched in my life on Netflix. And like, thank God it was on Netflix, because I was going to go watch it at TIFF.
Yeah.
Thank God.
I was like, thank God.
Yeah,
I'm like, I didn't sit there for that, but it was just very long, and it was a lot of copying those 2 films. Like, it was literally The Big Short, Wolf of Wall Street put together with like the most boring topic that you can think of. So Pain Hustlers was painful to sit through.
I did not realize until you mentioned it. I was like, wait, why did I hear that's David Yates' movie? The Harry Potter guy?
Exactly. So when
I
saw David Yates, I'm like, he's making something else other than Fantastic Beasts or like Harry Potter. I'm like, now I know why he just directed those films, because he doesn't have like a clear style. Like you can't tell.
He does not know.
No. So I'm like, oh, this is Adam McKay. Nope. So I was just like, okay, David Yates, so random.
Yes.
All right, Molly, what do you have as your worst?
I feel like mine is probably the most prestigious film of this
Yeah.
bunch, but
Ooh.
I really did not care for Saltburn. I just,
No,
yeah.
Pain.
I haven't seen it. I've been kind of
Sorry.
avoiding it.
It's
I
okay.
haven't seen it.
Like it was
It's okay.
just even after I went out of it and I thought this is pretty good. I was like, this needed a lot more rewrites. And then I'm thinking
Mm.
about it more and more. I'm like, this is just a vacuous picture. It is just how did he know how all these things were going into play? Why is it that Emerald Fennel actually made the rich characters a bit more sympathetic than any other character in the film? Because she can't really condemn the rich class. And people are like, oh, they definitely condemn. It's like, they did not commit sexual assault. They were the
Yeah.
worst. They did not do any of that stuff. So you're just watching and you just watch and you're like, ugh. And then when you heard Emerald Fennel say, this is what I thought I would do if I was a middle class character, and you're like, oh. And she said, this is just my belief that everybody is evil. Like, oh, no wonder why it's shallow and unfocused. Because you have a really weird way of looking at things that
Yeah.
is probably taken from her billionaire class structure because she's the daughter of a billionaire.
That's right.
So I think that's a part of that. And I was disappointed too
Mm.
because I liked Promising Young Women. I'm one of the film Twitter
Yeah,
people
I
that
did too.
I loved it.
I'm one of the film Twitter people that actually says it has good points. It's a good
Yeah.
movie, but that would
Mhm.
know. I also
Yeah.
did not care for Killing Eve season 2 that she ran. So
Oh,
maybe that was just like a hint of that. So I'm like, I
sophomore
like one thing
slump.
she does.
Sophomore
Exactly.
slump.
Yeah.
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 Exactly. And I just did not understand the people coming out and being like, I've never seen a film director treated this awfully. And I was just like,
Mhm.
the, we just saw Nia DaCosta thrown under the bus
You
by
know.
Marvel. So I'm just like, what are you
Yeah.
talking about, person? It's
Mm.
just like Emerald is fine.
Yeah.
She has so many more opportunities. She's
She'll
the
probably
daughter
get
of a billionaire. She
nominated.
can
I
do what she
mean,
wants.
She
I've
probably
heard
will.
mostly praise for it, but
I
that's the
liked it.
thing that people watching, you have to understand that some of these prestige films can be it can be absolutely terrible.
It's true.
Yeah.
You
And it
watch
also
that.
doesn't help that people in the audience were like gasping for some of the gross stuff. And I'm just like, have you guys?
Yeah.
I've seen Sallow twice. I've seen Sweet Movie.
Yeah.
This is nothing. And at least and I've
Exactly.
seen The Devils. And those
Yeah.
stuff actually had a point to that imagery.
Yeah.
This one is
Mhm.
it's just trying to be provocative for the sake of provocativity.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't really work. So you're watching it and you're watching the scenes like when he's defiling the grave, and I'm thinking, oh, this is so stolen from Wuthering Heights right there, except awful.
Yes,
And you're just
well,
I really
yeah,
is. It's more like Wuthering Heights. It really
Yeah.
is. And like A Talented Mr. Ripley, Wuthering Heights thing. I love Paul Schrader's review of it when he brought up that just like it's the inversion of the Talented Mr. Ripley story where it's the ugly guy trying to sway his way into
Mhm.
higher up society. It shouldn't work, and it doesn't. And I was just like, Paul had a
Well,
point there.
This one isn't one of my 3 picks, but the prestige film that I thought was a turd was Ferrari. I thought Ferrari
yeah.
was really bad.
Yeah.
Just boring.
I haven't
It was
I haven't
okay.
seen it yet. I
Yeah.
haven't seen it yet. I need to watch that one.
Like it was like, and even the racing stuff was not that well done. It was just it
No.
was,
I agree.
Yeah.
yeah, it was bad.
Yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
my second to worst is another one I know Wanda likes.
What is this?
But I hated it so much. I almost walked out of the theater.
Oh,
It's
no.
Strays. It was just so puerile and so gross. And I felt like it had 2 jokes and just kept repeating them over and over and over and over again to the point where I couldn't take it anymore. I was just like, and it's like it was like all they had was, oh, it's funny for dogs to cuss, and it's funny for dogs to and poop jokes are funny. That was it. That was all they had. And I just didn't think that was that was that
Okay.
funny. I felt like I went into it open to like, okay,
Okay.
you know, I
Mhm.
can like a raunchy movie sometimes, but I don't know. I just
It's okay.
Mhm.
hated
I
it.
understand. It's okay.
Yes.
All right. I was dying of laughter, so that was maybe
Yeah.
I needed a good laugh, and that was the mood I'm in. And I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
dogs swearing.
I mean,
Let's go.
I like Dick's the musical, so I could
have
see
to watch
what. So
that.
it's okay. It's okay.
I
And a lot of
Joyride,
people
and that
hated
was
that movie.
pretty raunchy for me. Joyride, I thought
Yeah,
was really sweet.
Oh, Joyride! I think it's the funniest film I've seen this
Yeah,
year.
it was
Yeah.
really
I have to
funny.
watch it.
Are you a fan of Rachel's reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/hallmarkies.
What is your second worst?
So when I feel like we both watched this at the same time, Rachel, because when we got out of it, we both tweeted at the same time about trolls band together.
Yes.
So listen, okay. I love the other two Trolls movies. Like, I adore them. They're so fun. They went against the grain of other animated films. I think that their musical numbers and medleys were like the strength of the other two films more so than the characters. And I had a lot of fun just because they were so like vibrant and there was so much happiness and joy in those films and, you know, plenty of life lessons as well. But going into Trolls Band Together, they marketed this film based off of freaking NSYNC coming together after 20 years.
Yeah.
We did not get NSYNC at all. At all. We didn't get NSYNC.
Yeah.
I had thought that the brothers that were cast in Brozone were going to be NSYNC because that would have made more sense. We get
Right.
NSYNC 5 seconds towards the end before the credits, and it
Yeah.
just pissed me off so much. And I think we had said that Poppy was just completely unbearable in this just because she was trying to like make it her own story when I think we should just focused on Branch the entire time. And
Yeah.
it just didn't work for me. Like I was so underwhelmed and pissed off that Saturday morning.
The thing that's so weird about these Trolls movies is they're all supposedly about like acceptance and being whatever, but all three of them have basically been, if you don't behave like Poppy, then you're wrong and you need to change.
Yeah.
Like Branch needs
Exactly.
to change. Everybody needs to change. If you're not in like if you're in rock and roll world in the second one for some reason, you're evil. I don't know why. Like it was just so weird.
I know.
And yeah,
It's
this movie was
messy.
terrible. I hated it so much.
It was so bad. The jokes did not land. It was so dry. Hearing Amy Schumer's voice was like the most irritating
Poppy
thing
was
for me.
so insufferable. She was so
Yeah.
annoying.
It was so
And
bad.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
a rough sit,
It also made like no noise at the box office.
which was
And I was-
surprising.
No.
Because I remember we did the box office show and I'm just like, they're gonna kill it. They're gonna
Yeah.
surprise everybody. And then,
Nope.
People
so,
were like,
No.
we'll just stay home.
yeah.
We'll just stay home, rewatch Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. It's okay.
Basically, yeah. It's like this is the animated
Yes.
feature of the
I
year,
don't
clearly.
blame them. Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you have as your second, Molly?
So this is one, it's not that it was bad. So the good thing is with a lot of these children's films that are made with the caveat that children are stupid, so we don't really have to put much energy into it, which
Uh-huh.
is the
Yeah.
worst kids films.
Right.
I
Yep.
actually worked every single time they had a screening for it because it's always Saturday morning and I was working during those times. So my next two ones are live action. So this one was just disappointing. It wasn't bad. It was just very underwhelming. So Dumb Money was just kind of underwhelming because I feel like it was trying to hit a trend, and it definitely needed rewrites. And you're just like, and I love Paul Dano. I think he's a fantastic actor, and I think he's a pretty good director and screenwriter. And also he's just the perfect feminine guy that a lot of queer girls like, which I'm just like, yeah, I get it. I get it too. And I'm watching this and I'm just like, oh, this is really,
I mean, it really revealed to the world that there's nothing exciting about being a YouTuber. Like, it is just
no, it really does not. It really does not.
Nothing.
I like to say,
like, I guarantee the documentary was a million times better.
I like to say there's this YouTuber who actually did an entire video about this, folding ideas. Dan Olson, who was discussing this, and he even did the 10 B's part better than Paul Dano did. And that video has like 3 million views. And I was like, this is much better than Dumb Money. This is done much better describing what happened with this event.
Yeah, and I thought the music cues were so odd in that movie.
Yeah, they were.
It was just like this weird, really, really profanity-laced rap music that could fit in another movie, but I just didn't get it. I didn't get it. I'm like, why are they're trying to make I don't know, just didn't make, I didn't understand that. So I can see that. Well,
it was just underwhelming.
Yeah. Since Manda already talked about Trolls Band Together, which was atrocious, I'm going to talk about the biggest snooze of the year, a movie that was so boring. Was The Haunted Mansion.
Where
they have Winona Ryder and Mary Lou Henner in these movie legends. What do they have them do? They're on a tour for like the first 10 minutes of New Orleans. We're like there, and then they're like do nothing with like what? Why did you? I'm sure they had to pay her. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, what? $20 million? I don't know how much you have to pay Winona Ryder these days. I don't care what it was. We had to pay amount for her to follow her walking around New Orleans getting a tour. It was so bizarre. But that wasn't even the start. It was so downtrodden and downbeat about this kid, and his dad's died, and the it was. I was so bored, and Tiffany Haddish was so annoying, and none of the jokes landed, at almost none. There were a few like, oh, that was fun, a little nod to the ride, but that was about all it did. And I don't know what it is about because when I first got out, I was like, oh, the Eddie Murphy one was definitely better. So then I went home and watched it, and I was like, oh, that sucked, that movie.
It was still bad.
And so I'm just like, this just doesn't work. Stop now.
It's like, don't do another one.
It's still the best live action Haunted Mansion film is the Muppet.
Is the Muppets.
Mansion. That is the best one.
It's so good.
I mean, it's still, I would say it's still sort of lower tier Muppets because they use too much Pepe instead of Rizzo. But compared to these other two, it's like, whoa, way up here. Manda, what is your number 3?
My number 3, like the worst movie I've seen this year, is The Flash. You guys know how big of a comic book movie fan I am, and Barry Allen's one of my favorite characters. I love the TV show. But what in God's name was this? This just I love his story with his mother dying. The whole thing with, trying to figure out who killed her would have been 10 times more interesting than going into the multiverse and just confusing the living, just confusing everybody to no end. I was concerned with the CGI babies within the first 5 minutes of this film and being put in a microwave that I just, obviously the microwave was not on. I just want to specify that. But at the same time, why? I just think that the decisions made in this film were absolutely atrocious. And it was just like a disservice to every single character.
And the Christopher Reeves was bad.
so distasteful.
It was
was
so
really
distasteful.
bad. It
Yes.
was really bad.
Oh, and
Especially-
George Reeves too, because George Reeves also died, also committed suicide. You're just like, because he couldn't escape from being Superman. You're like, oh my God, you can't even escape from Superman and death.
Especially when there's so many actors that have played Superman, they could have had do that cameo. There was no reason.
You don't put Henry Cavill, you don't put Brandon Ruth, and there were you don't put Tom Welling, who's probably the most notable from Smallville, like,
or even like Dean Cain or somebody. I mean, there's a million choices.
And
I think Brandon Routh would have actually fit the joke more. Because
the
whole joke was about, sort of these, like, you have Clooney showing up and you have everything like, so it would have been like funny to be like, oh, it was a failed, failed Superman. But that was bad.
It was,
I mean,
terrible.
It's one of those ones I did think the emotional parts with his mom worked. And when he has to say goodbye to his mom, that got me emotionally. So I did give it, and I did think the stuff with Michael Keaton worked pretty well. So I did give it a very mild recommendation, but it's one of those ones that I'm like, but because all the bad stuff was very bad. No question.
Like some of the worst special effects I've seen, like just absolutely terrible. And then I remember Eddie Muschietti came out and he was like, oh no, all of that in the Speed Force was
ridiculous.
We wanted it to look like that. And I'm like, I said, I don't think so,
ridiculous.
my guy. I don't think so. But yeah, that was like massive disappointment for me.
Yeah. What about you? What's your third, Molly?
Third, this is marginally better than Dumb Money, but I had Tetris in there. I didn't watch a lot of bad films this year.
Right.
Like, I didn't dislike Tetris. It was just very underwhelming. And you're watching it, and you're like, you're trying to make something more action-y than that really had to when you didn't have to rely on this. Because it would have been fascinating to look at this making of with Tetris and how trying to get it away from Atari and trying to actually get it out of the Soviet Union. And this could have been interesting without making it into a chase scene. And it just felt like a lot of fluff with no substance. And I could tell that what's the actor's name? The main guy who is in Rocket Man.
Taron Egerton.
Taron Egerton, yeah.
Yeah, he's really fun with this. And I could tell he's having a lot of fun. And this is something he really enjoys. So that was something that I did like, but it was mostly just meh movie. It was just a meh. Yeah.
Yeah, I was on the edge for that one. And I'll admit that my festival experience probably bumped it up just a little bit. I tried to have it not be too much, but it was pretty cool because so they get up. This is a South by Southwest. They get up and they're like, no, there's gonna be no panel, no whatever. And so it's like, okay, fine, because we weren't the premiere. We were the next day, and and so we watched the movie, and it was like, oh, that's fun enough. And and then the real Hank and Alexi were there. So they were like, surprise!
Oh, nice.
Oh my God.
Oh, that was so sweet.
That was pretty cool. That was really
Hey, this is Jen Johans, host of the podcast Watch with Jen, which delivers a steady stream of great movie recommendations, thoughtful career deep dives, and first-rate conversations with film critics, authors, actors, journalists, filmmakers, and more. You can find Watch with Jen wherever you get your podcasts or hear us first at our Patreon at patreon.com/filmintuition.
Let's do surprises and disappointments. Let's first do disappointments, and let's just we could just kind of list a couple, so we can get to the best pretty quick. But some of my, let's do disappointments first. Some of my disappointments, I was really disappointed by Asteroid City. I just did not think it worked. All these different levels of storytelling, and it felt, and then all these different characters, and I didn't think that he did a good job of the script and meshing it all together and making it all work. I did not think Priscilla was good. I just thought, why am I spending all this time with her? Like, I felt like I didn't get to know her at all. Like, I learned almost nothing about Priscilla, why she liked him, why she was there, why she changed her mind, what she wanted out of life. I have no idea. So that one was, and then the last one that I'll mention is disappointment was The Marvels. I just felt like this was like 5 screenplays in a canon.
It's fair.
And then they just picked it up every day. And then they were like, okay, we're just going to make it up today. And today we're going to have people singing. And today we're going to be about the cats. And then the next thing is going to be about Captain Marvel responsible for genocide. And then we're going to move away from that for a while. And then we're going to be about Nick Fury. And then we're going to go back to the genocide and have this absolutely terrible villain. Yeah. I was glad that it didn't succeed, because to me, it was like, it felt like it was Marvel's way of saying, like, we think we can literally put anything out and people will accept it. And people were like, nope, you can't. So that made me happy. But it was just, it had nice moments and stuff, but it had no coherency. It had no, that was frustrating for me. So those would be disappointments for me. What about you, Manda?
I also had Asteroid City on mine. And for me, Wes Anderson's like a hit or a miss. I have to really just take it movie by movie with him. I can't say that, you know, his work is always great. I can appreciate, you know, the production design. I can appreciate the symmetry. Like, he's a very strong director, don't get me wrong, but the stories aren't always the strongest, or I don't connect with them. I also have a love-hate relationship with Ari Aster, and Beau is Afraid is on my disappointed list. That was something. He had me in the first half. I have to admit, he had me in the first half just to explore like Beau's anxiety. I thought that was extremely well done in like the first part of this film. And then it went somewhere else, and I had no idea where it went. I followed him through it, but it was just something that, I commend him for what he did. It was very ambitious, but not for me. I also, I have A Haunting in Venice on my list. I was disappointed. I'm not a huge Branagh fan for like the Agatha Christie films for some reason. And I just, on a whim, I'm like, oh, this trailer actually looks decent. Didn't end up liking the film either. It was really slow. And I have Elemental on the list. People
I agree with that.
Thank you. Because people were upset with me when I just didn't like it. I gave it like 1-2 stars or something, because that animation's so like, it's so nice, but it still looked unpolished. And then the story's really generic. We've seen this thousands of times, and it just didn't, I don't know, the concept wasn't strong for me. So those are the ones that I'm like, man, like I was really excited, and then nothing.
I agree with you on Elemental for sure.
All
right, Molly, what did you have as disappointing?
So disappointments. I realized there's another film I disliked more than Tetris when I was remembering this, 80 for Brady. I just completely forgot. So I'll just put it in my disappointments, because I wanted it to be, because it's really more just for the football fans, and not like, I want to see these old ladies being awesome. I want to see them, I want to have it be like campy, that sort of stuff. No, it was not really campy. And it was just very underwritten. And you're just like, and they're trying their damnedest to make this work. And it really felt like it was just like a love letter to Tom Brady. And I don't really care about Tom Brady. So if you're not a Tom Brady fan, then you're not going to like this film, I don't think. But because they're just like, Tom Brady, he's the man. They lust after him. Like, okay, it's almost like Tom Brady produces. So, he did. He did produce this film, so that makes sense.
He did. It's so funny. There was this person on Letterboxd who I said in my review of 80 for Brady, I was like, you can probably just wait and watch this at home on screening. And they were so offended by that. Like, they said I should apologize to the filmmakers, and I'm like, what? Because they made a made for TV movie, and that's what
it really is. It really does feel like a made for TV movie.
Like, I review made for TV movies for my job, for my living.
Yes.
I mean,
yes,
so funny. It's like, You should apologize.
God.
I think they can
apologize to the filmmakers. I'm like,
that's funny.
All right, then. So,
go ahead.
Should I continue with the other
please,
ones?
Please.
Yes. So next one was that I was kind of disappointed with, even though it's a good movie, it's good, is The Killer by David Fincher. And I was really excited for it. I thought it was going to be something like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo or The Game even, which I actually really love The Game. I think it's one of the most entertaining Fincher films. But it's just really once after the she gets the assassin, then you're like, oh wait, there's 30 minutes left in this movie. Well, what is he doing now? Didn't he get everyone? And then the momentum just stops. The pacing just stops right there. And you're like, oh, and I didn't like how they sidelined the character, his girlfriend, how she's basically been fridged for the most part, but I did find it funny they used the Smith song "Girlfriend in a Coma." It's like, yeah, because your girlfriend's in a coma, so so I actually laughed during that part. Yep, very on the nose. So yeah, and I did wondered,
how much of the narration was meant to be kind of bordering on parody. Like,
I almost think it really is,
but it is supposed to be funny when he's like, "Yeah, I go to McDonald's, get the McGriddle." With the sausage.
I was dying
like all these calories.
That was
it is. That was a fun part. I didn't know I really enjoyed. I really like that. And it is a lot.
I just couldn't decide if it was intentional to be funny. Sometimes I thought it was, and then other times I thought, oh, he's taking this seriously. This is like, I don't know. I did recommend it, but it wasn't by no means a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, I feel. Yeah, definitely feel that too. And probably my third disappointment, even though it's still a good film too, is American Fiction. Because I really liked the novel it's based off of. I'm not going to get into too spoilery details. It's based off a novel called Erasure by Percival Everett. And I wish it went harder a bit on the satire of what it's doing, but I feel it didn't want to offend too many of the white viewers that were watching it, which is kind of funny because it's trying to also satirize white guilt, especially in the publishing industry, and how a lot of awards are given to a lot of Black authors who seem to write about torturous experiences of the Black experience, and it's facing off against the idea that all Black writers have to write about Black subject matter, which I really liked, especially because the author Percival Everett did write some books on Greek mythology. And they're like, oh, that belongs to Black studies. There's a scene where he takes his books out of the Black studies and is like, nope, this is a retelling of a Greek myth. This is not supposed to be there. So, and I really enjoyed that. And being a librarian, I'm like, I actually in bookstore seller. So I understand that whole trying to make sure everything fits in the right spot. And I can understand his frustration with that. But it really did feel kind of disappointing. And then at some times, but the parts that really hit well. And the reason why I put it up here is because Washington Post put it as their best film of this year. And I was just like, really? That just kind of surprised me. It's like, it's a good film. It's just, it's not the best though.
That always happens every award season, though. I'm feeling that with May, December. I did not.
Yeah.
I didn't like
I loved May, December, so we're going to discuss that.
We're going to talk about that.
I'm with you, Rachel.
I love it. But yeah, so let's talk about ones that surprised us. For me, the biggest surprise of the year, if you were going to tell me that my favorite film from Disney in a year where they have an Indiana Jones movie, a Pixar movie, and an animated musical, if you were going to tell me my favorite movie from them was one of their DComs, I would have said you're crazy. And that's the reality that we're living in. I loved a little movie they had called Prom Pact. I thought it was so romantic and so well done and so charming. And I loved all of the leads. And I mean, if you like John Hughes teen rom-coms, teen coming of age comedies, then you'll love this. It pays heavy homage to those because that's the theme of the prom. So there's lots of winks to, everything from Dirty Dancing to Some Kind of Wonderful to Breakfast Club, all of that. So it's knowing in that way, but I loved the platonic friendship between the two of the leads. I loved kind of the enemies to lovers vibe between her and the basketball player. So charming, and I loved his little relationship with the prom queen. That was really cute, and I thought it was so well done. I loved it, and I watched it multiple times. So that had to be on my surprised. And then one that just came out that I was blown away by, Godzilla minus one. Huge surprise.
Yes.
So well done. Probably the best Godzilla movie I've ever seen. Had heart. You understood the motivation of the characters. It wasn't just a monster movie. There was more to it. And I think they made that for $15 million. It's just absolutely insane.
Yes.
Like what? And then my last surprise was actually Gran Turismo. A lot of people didn't like this movie.
Nice.
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a very like crowd pleasing, heartwarming story. Yes, it's got tons of product placement, but I was fine with that. I really liked Orlando Bloom and David Harbour. I thought they were really good in their roles, and I liked the lead guy. I thought he was good, and the racing scenes were way better than Ferrari. I'll tell you that. So I don't know. I was so surprised when people were really tough on it, because I really enjoyed it. So, what about you, Mon? What's your surprises?
Yeah. I didn't expect these 4 films here for me to enjoy them as much as I did. I'm going to start off with Blackberry, because Glenn Howerton. I did not expect that performance from him whatsoever. I love Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and I just think when Glenn Howerton gets mad, it is my favorite thing ever. So him just flying off the handle was incredible in Blackberry, but the story is actually good. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised with that film. I think Jay Baruchel was great in that as well. I have Renfield, which it was like so underappreciated. Renfield, I think Nicolas Cage was great, and I think Nicholas Hoult was amazing. I had read Bram Stoker's Dracula like in high school, and it's still my favorite book that I've ever read. And I think that focusing on Renfield gave it a completely different perspective to Dracula's story. And I thought that was really amazing. So fun, blood everywhere. And Nicolas Cage just drives it home as Dracula.
Yes.
He was like free to do whatever he wanted. So I had fun with that one. Mutant Mayhem, My Ninja Turtles.
Yes.
Wow. Did not expect to love it as much as I did too. That was a lot of fun. And Saw X. I was pleasantly surprised. I'm not a massive fan of that franchise, and I got to throw a little horror in here as well. I really like the storyline. And Tobin Bell probably gives like the best performance that he has in the entire franchise, which isn't saying much, but it was really good.
Yeah, I heard that from people.
Yeah, it was pretty good. And the traps were just top notch. So yeah, those are my surprises.
What about you, Molly? What's your surprises?
So I think probably the earliest, I love Joyride. I was surprised how much I love Joyride. I thought I was just gonna like it. I didn't realize I was actually gonna love it. I didn't realize that. I actually watched it twice. I went to the screening, and then I told my other guy friend, I'm like, we have to go again. I need you to watch this movie with me. And we were laughing so hard. There were tears streaming down our faces, both times it was there. And it was just so heartwarming in the third act. And I was just like, I didn't expect that, but it was done so well that I was just like, oh man, this movie. And the other film I was pleasantly surprised by was Nimona. And I know that Rachel, you didn't really care for it, but Blue Sky Studios, even though it was 20th Century Animation that finished it, did not have the best track record for a lot of stuff. So I was like, and I was just like, and I really liked the graphic novel, the webcomic that N.D. Stevenson, he wrote, and I really liked how that was implemented, and also brought up the ideas of gender identity, also comes up with the idea of shape shifting, which is how N.D. Stevenson was able to come out as trans masculine, and I could see that in the narrative, and also seeing so many trans people, trans Twitters and YouTubers actually bringing up that I feel seen by this movie. And I was just like, I see it too. And I just love how they feel about it. I love the colors. I really love the performances of Chloe Grace Moretz and Riz Ahmed. They are both fantastic. And the guy from that BuzzFeed thing, just like the Try Guys, I think it is. The guy who played boyfriend. I was like, this guy is not really an actor. He's really good. So
I didn't know that he was. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, I was surprised. I was surprised with that.
That's interesting.
And also, I think you're gonna like this, Manda. The Iron Claw. I just recently saw this, and I was like, okay, it's just gonna be like a simple. Oh, we gotta live vicariously through our dad sort of sports film, but it was much more than that. And it's just heart-wrenching to watch it. And then you also know it's based off a true story. And then you find out that they actually cut out some people that also were killed during this in that family as well. It's even more crazy than the film. And Zac Efron gives the best performance he's ever given in his entire career. Top notch. And the rapport with the actors playing the brothers is just so endearing to watch and experience. So I was very surprised with that. And another surprise, I was Vix the musical. I guess I could talk about that a little bit. I was kind of surprised how much I laughed for that.
Oh yeah.
And
I hadn't seen it.
I don't think you're gonna like it. But I love Nathan Lane, and I really like Megan Mullally, and they know what kind of movie they're in, so they're gonna sing whatever, and they're gonna sing these ridiculous lyrics. And Bowen Yang is great in it as the narrator / God. So it's really I actually had a lot of fun with it, even though it was still, I put it like 3.5 stars, but yeah, I could see why many people find it obnoxious and hate it, but I enjoyed it. I was surprised. I thought to myself, A24's first musical, I'm not sure this is going to be so good. It's based off this college musical, but it was fun. And Megan Thee Stallion was having fun with it too. I liked her character too.
My girl.
Yes. She was having so much fun.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
All right, well, let's dive into our top fives lists. And my number 5, you already mentioned it, Manda. It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. Woo! I had about 7 animated films that I felt about the same from, that I really, really enjoyed. But so it's like, which one do I pick? I'm still struggling with my overall top 10 list because I kind of all animated. But I absolutely loved the animation. I loved that these were actual teen characters that I could relate with, and that were funny and that were charming. And I just was thoroughly entertained by it. And I think it's the best as far as overall entertainment, and one that I liked the most. It was, I think, my favorite animated film of the year. So
I love that.
So what's your number 5, Mon?
I have Poor Things in my 5th spot.
Okay.
Yes. I was amazed by Emma Stone in this film. Personally, it is the best performance of her career. And I think that she brought such an incredible physicality to Bella, considering that she had to play like a baby in a human body, and then evolve into an actual like woman. I think that the concept of Poor Things is absolutely brilliant, and I think that the only person that could have tackled it and executed this like a modernized version of Frankenstein is Yorgos Lanthimos. I do not think anyone else could have done it the way that he did it. There's just so many like beautiful things about her journey into womanhood, and I just love that with everything that she learns, she just adapts to the situation. And as women, I feel like we always have to do that. Like we get thrown curveballs all the time. We have to cross these obstacles, and it only makes us stronger. So I think that she was amazing. The character's amazing. I personally think that Mark Ruffalo has never been better because I loved him in this role. Yeah, he was fantastic. I'm like, I didn't know you had that in you,
Like,
man. Like, it was that, but
I mean, it's definitely not going to be for everybody, that movie, but I don't know how you walk away from that and not think that she deserves to win the Oscar. I mean,
100%.
it was a fearless performance, completely fearless. I do think it runs a little long. It's a little self-indulgent at times. In my opinion, I would cut out the entire Paris section. I don't think it's needed.
I love the Paris section.
I do too.
It feels redundant. Like I feel like she learned everything that she learned already on the boat, and I certainly would have made it way shorter, the Paris section. But that's just me.
Condensed,
but I did recommend it, and it's one of those movies that I would be very careful who I recommend it to.
It's like you have to know their vibe. It's like you'll like it, you won't. So
what's your number 5, Molly?
So my number 5 is one that was also in my favorite films when we did this last time. It's Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. So I still love it. I still am just I still think about it. I'm so glad that Rachel McAdams got some love at the Los Angeles Film Critics Society. She actually won Best Supporting Actress, lit Divine Joy Randolph with The Holdovers, which I was so close to putting The Holdovers in my top 5, but I decided I think I like these movies a bit more. But yeah, it's so well deserved. It's just like it also made me cry in the theater. So a big shock, and it's also one I feel I could watch with my mom over and over again, or even I could actually show it if I had a daughter or a son. I could also show it to them as well. So just like it's just so heartwarming. It's such a heartwarming picture.
I agree. I have it coming up.
Yay.
Yes. My number 4 is The Taste of Things. I have it for this is a movie that's not gonna be for everybody. There's really no plot. It's just about these two people falling in love and cooking elaborate meals, and so that won't be for everybody, but I really enjoyed it. I loved all of the cooking. It made me very hungry, and and it's just like the connection and the chemistry and the sensuality was just so palpable, and their love for each other through cooking was so palpable, and I loved both the performances. I love Julie Binoche's performance so much.
Yes.
It's one of the great food movies I think I've ever seen. So
right up there with Tampopo and Babette's Feast.
Yes. Yes. I thought a lot of Babette's Feast watching it.
Yes.
That cooking is a form of expressing their love.
Exactly.
Like in that movie. Molly, I mean, Manda, what is your number 4?
So Molly mentioned this already, and it is The Iron Claw. I had to think about it. I sort of like, am I going to put this in my top 5? And like, I'm putting this in my top 5 because I don't think I've ever felt so much tension and anxiety for a family in my life while watching this. I cried more than I should have, more than I anticipated that I would. Zac Efron, absolutely brilliant. I loved Harris Dickinson in this as well.
Yes.
Alan White, they all three of them just as an ensemble, I think it's one of the best ensembles of the year because they work together so incredibly well. Yeah. And I think for me, I haven't seen Zac Efron this vulnerable physically and just emotion. I've never seen him like this. And I think that it's one of his, if not his best performance to date. And I would love if he got some form of recognition. I know that it's still not out yet for people, but I would love if he got some form of recognition moving forward. It is one of the best sports dramas that I've seen in the past like 5 years. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to see it last week, but I was just so drained. I was like, I'm not up for this movie today.
No.
I just can't.
need
And so
to sleep.
I knew that there was going to be a screening
Yeah.
this week. And so I messaged them. I was like, can I go next week instead? And they were kind enough to.
Yeah.
So I'm,
good.
I am
That
looking
is
forward
nice.
to
Yay.
see it.
Yeah. I'm so happy for it. No, like you have to literally go in knowing that you're going to cry and get emotional. And if you're not up for it, then just pick another day to watch that movie.
I also really love Sean Durkin's direction with it. I don't think an American director could have done this since he's British and wrestling WWE and the NWA is not as big in Britain as it is in America. So he's actually able to take a step back and see that just like and actually look at the sport itself from this perspective that's not obsessed with over it or put so much and actually see it as like, oh, this is American toxic masculinity right there, just kind of running amok. And then he could deconstruct it in a way I'm not sure an American who is a wrestling fan could do. And apparently John Durkin is a fan of wrestling. He's just not obsessed with it or puts this entire idea of glorification on it as much from what I've conjectured. So that's what it was very good. And Sean Durkin does a fantastic job with this.
So well done.
I'm excited to see it. All right, Molly, what's your 4?
All right. I feel like this is the one you guys are going to be like, it was like with Babylon last year, but I loved May, December.
Okay.
I
Most people seem to.
Yeah, you're not alone.
It had interesting ideas.
At least with this one. Yeah.
And I liked Charles Melton a lot. I just felt like it couldn't decide what it was trying to say. I felt like it was just, there were so many things that it got kind of muddled, in my opinion. But
I think it works very well in the melodramatic sense. It's, of course, harkening back to Douglas Sirk, which Todd Haynes loves him. And I also felt a lot of that. I was thinking of the movie Superstar, the Karen Carpenter story that Todd Haynes did for his thesis film with dolls that really, really pushed the idea of trying to mold yourself into an image. And it actually, and I loved the mirrors connections. I love the double expressionists of trying to become someone. So it sees that, oh, this is not both these women are awful people and all these other people are caught into it. So it was really, and I actually, ever since it had the first piano sting during the part where she opens that fridge, like, I don't think we're going to have enough hot dogs. I was like all in this movie. And I thought the script was fantastic. And of course, all the performances were top notch. And I really liked how it also take a swung at female predators and how our society actually really lets them off much more easily than male predators when it's just like, no, it's just as debilitating and it's just as harmful especially to minors. Like Charles Melton's character just works so well as that stunted
He's very good
30-something, a something-year-old, and he's just like, he holds himself like a teenage boy in almost every scene, and you're just like, you just want to hug him, but you know that would not help him, and you just feel so sorry for him. I love the butterfly iconography, and so I just really loved it. So
did you get the Netflix swag box?
I did, yes.
Okay, I was gonna say I can send you mine.
Yeah, like, I'm fine.
I got the
Cool.
t-shirt.
Yeah,
and the
sure.
and the book and the book. I was so glad they gave me a book that was not a making of, but it was just about Todd Haynes and his film process. And I was like,
Mm.
yes, this is what I want. So yeah, I was
Yeah.
very happy to get that. I love Todd Haynes. He's one of my favorite directors. I mean, he directed one of my favorite movies, Carol. So, and
Yeah,
I
that's a
love
good
Far From
one.
Heaven.
So good.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, my number 3 is one we agree on. It's Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, at number 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yay. I love it.
I mean, especially
Yes.
the relationship between Margaret and her grandmother, that was really meaningful to me and reminded me of my grandma. And
Mhm.
I went away from thinking I have nothing. I have no critiques. There's nothing I would
Yeah.
change
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah.
Like, I give it a 10 out
It's
of
fair.
10.
I hear you.
Yes.
And I don't normally like coming of age teenage angsty movies.
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
that, I mean, like, I hated The Whale so much, and like things
Same.
like that.
Yeah.
And so for me, the fact that this worked so well
Mhm.
is a miracle.
Mhm.
Okay.
What
It's
what
all
is
good.
Okay.
what is your number 3, Manda?
I have the holdovers in my third spot.
Yay.
I did not expect to like this because I absolutely hated downsizing. Hated
Oh,
downsizing.
yeah.
So I'm like, you know
Yeah.
what? I don't know what to expect going into this pain film. And I was just so blown away by it. It's so well written. The characters are
Mhm.
incredibly strong, and the dynamic is incredible between the three of them. I think newcomer
Mhm.
Dominic Sessa
Unbelievable.
just
Yes.
knocked it out of the
Mhm.
park. One of the best performances this year. Heartbreaking. Divine Joy Randolph, every single like nomination her
Yes.
way. She's one of the best performances this year.
Mhm.
She moved me as well. But Paul Giamatti, I think
Oh,
it's like
I
his
love him
best.
so
It's his
much.
best. Like his line delivery. Oh my god, his line delivery
Yes.
is just like perfection. The dry sarcasm, his
Yes.
superiority. I think it's all
Mhm.
just so wonderful. And I also think it's a reminder that, you know, you have to be kind to everybody. And I know it's
Mhm.
just for the holiday season, but it's also year round because you really don't know what's happening in other
Mhm.
people's lives.
Exactly.
So it's really wholesome. And I think that more we need to go back to have movies like this. I really do
Mhm.
think that this is such a diamond in the rough. And I think that everyone can enjoy this. And I think that's why so many people are just absolutely loving this, because we don't get enough of these. So I
Mhm.
absolutely love the holdovers. I watched it like
Yes.
twice already. It's so good.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is
That's so good.
your number 3, Molly?
Yeah.
All right. So my number 3 is this one is one of the ones that actually made me cry too, but All of Us Strangers by Andrew Ha.
Mm-hmm.
It was just so good. I didn't expect it because I was thinking like, oh, it's based off a Japanese ghost novel and it was adapted originally into a horror film. So what are we doing with this? And it's just not. But I was watching it, and then the first time he sees his parents, Andrew Scott sees parents that he's trying to reconnect with them. Like, oh my God. And then he's having these conversations with them. And I was like, oh, it's just like it was just like, oh, it's just like weird
Yeah.
joy at points. It's just like, and I love that Andrew Ha added the subtext with well, not subtext, the full text, because it wasn't in the original book that the character was gay. And that
Mhm.
just really brought the film so much,
So good.
just even better than what you would expect it to be. And it's just so good to watch. And you're just watching him try to reconnect and trying to gain acceptance from his parents that could never give it to him.
Yeah.
And you're hoping and praying that just, I want you to be happy. I want you, it's so beautiful. It's
Mm-hmm.
shot so gorgeous. Like Andrew Ha just never at this point, he's never made a bad film. And and this feels like the successor to Weekend, which was my first film I saw his work, and that's when I really started getting into him. and it just works so well, and all the elements just put together, it just makes it an indelible picture. I highest
It's
recommendation.
so good.
He's a wonderful, wonderful filmmaker. I have to admit, I was a little disappointed by it, but I'm not saying it's terrible. But I love Lean on Pete and Weekend, like you said, 45 years. He knows how to
Yes.
make very he knows how to get that humanity into his films. All right. Well, my numbers 2 is The Holdovers. And
Yes.
I mean, it's a Christmas movie. It's a comedy. It's a family.
Yes.
Like it's a perfect script. Great performances. I agree with everything you said. I gave it also a 10 out of 10. It was absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
It's the best as far as just quality. It's the best movie of that I've seen this year. And I hope that it does gangbusters at the Oscars, because it'd be nice to have a movie that I actually really love.
For once, right? You know?
Yes.
God. I feel this.
Yes.
Mono, what's your number 2?
I have Priscilla at number 2.
Oh,
I
okay.
do.
Oh.
I had listened to the audiobook that's actually narrated by Priscilla, and I think that I just felt so connected to her even more so while I was watching this. I love Sofia Coppola. I really do. I think this is one of her best, in all honesty, as like a well-rounded film. And I think that she really understood how to create this like fantasy of a celebrity falling in love with like one of his fans, and then like a fan actually ending up with the celebrity that he's in love with, and just really breaking like just shattering her perspective of what it actually is to be involved with someone like that. Apart from the fact that she fully realizes later on in her life that she had been groomed at such a young age. I think that you get like a shell of who she was because she doesn't quite know who she was at that time. And I think that I understand that, like how you said, Rachel, there was like an emptiness to the character. It wasn't like well-rounded. I completely understand that, but I guess I see it in a different perspective. Yeah, I thought Kaylee Spaney, knockout. I thought from her to look like a 14-year-old girl and then just evolve into the woman that Priscilla was, amazing. And I have to say, I used to dislike Jacob Elordi just because of Nate Jacobs on Euphoria. This movie and press tour completely changed my perspective on this man, and also in Saltburn. But it takes one movie just to do that. And I thought he was great as Elvis, even though he didn't really look like him. It was more so his presence and his heights as well. It was just towering over her. I thought that worked really well. But yeah, Priscilla made me very emotional, and I connected to it.
Good. All right, Molly, what's your number 2?
So my number 2, I feel like this is going to be in a lot of people's, but Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah.
I adored this movie, and it made me feel so like this great deep sorrow throughout most of it. Lily Gladstone gives actually probably my favorite performance this year, even though I love Emma Stone in Poor Things, which I'll go into later. But I adored how all the pieces fit together. I love the editing. Thelma Shoemaker is just top notch. It never felt like 3 hours to me. I was shocked when it ended, and I was like, wait, it's over? Because that was the same exact reaction I had with Lawrence of Arabia when I first saw it in a movie theater. And I was like, wait, it's over? It can't be 3 hours. It is 3 hours. And I was watching, and you just see the indifference and the callousness that basically you see the government and law are mobsters right here, because there is nothing that the Navajos can really do because everybody is in on it. And it's horrifying, and it's terrifying, and you're just sitting and you're kind of clenching your seat because you're terrified for Molly, Lily Gladstone's character. You're terrified for her family. You're terrified for this entire group of people, and there's nothing they can really do. And it's infuriating, but in the best possible way, because it wants to motivate you to realize and remember this history, because this history has been forgotten for so long and erased, which I love. The final scene I loved, and that a lot of people have been having issues with, but I loved it. I loved Martin Scorsese's cameo. I thought he did so well in that cameo. And it was just so good. And of course, the score by Robbie Robertson, rest in peace, was just incredible. He did so well, and it really harkens back to living on a Mohawk tribal reservation lands, because he did when he was little, because he was Native American. So it's just like, top notch.
Yeah, this also made my top 10, not my top 5,
Same.
but yeah, and I was nervous about it because I'm a bit of an outlier on some Scorsese films, but this one was so compelling, so moving. And I talked in my review about how, to me, it was saying something about that power is only power if it is or wealth is only power if it's recognized as power.
Exactly.
Like, it's only useful if, like, you have power, and how few, like, they're wealthy but they have no power.
Yeah.
And no
Exactly.
control over their lives. And so I agree. I thought it was really well done. I mean, it could have like little nitpicks. I do think that the Brendan Fraser and John Lithgow performances fell out of place. They didn't really work for me.
I agree.
I even thought that
I actually liked Brendan Fraser's character because he's trying to make a show, because that's kind of a thing. A lot of attorneys do that. They will make a show and a spectacle of a case to sway the jury. And I thought he really did well with that.
I can see that.
I
Maybe
thought he
if
did well with that.
Yeah, I can see that. Maybe if they'd established it a little bit differently. It just kind of came out of nowhere for me. I was like, what's this person in this movie?
Like, that's my client. Like, what?
And I even personally thought that Robert De Niro was a little over the top sometimes for me in his performance, but still good. And I think it's an excellent film, and Lily Gladstone is really good, so it's a good one to have on your pick. Well, for my number one, I had to pick the movie that I literally reviewed 9 times on Letterboxd. 9 times, because it made me so happy and I loved it so much. This is my favorite. This is not the best. My favorite movie of the year was Red, White, and Royal Blue. I loved this movie. It was so entertaining. They had such great chemistry. It had heart to it. There was emotion there. I loved the book, so I was pretty sure I was going to love the movie, and I sure did. I just thought it was so well executed. It had such great, like, just all the beats. Yeah, I was totally invested in everything that happened, and I think it's one of the best romantic comedies literally ever made.
I agree 100%. Yes. I love that movie. It was so freaking good. I read the book back in August, and I would just fell in love with every single thing about these characters. It's so perfect. So I completely agree with you.
And they make like little changes. There's some characters that aren't in the movie, but I was fine with it. I was fine with it. Yeah. So it actually, my top 4 all got perfect scores. 5 stars.
Nice.
So I love, that's actually rare for me.
So did mine.
All right. Mana, what's your number 1?
I have Oppenheimer. I do have it. I was completely just blown away by the screenplay, obsessed with this editing. I think having both hearings run at the exact same time was such a fantastic choice. And I think it's a different way to approach a biopic as well. I didn't feel like a biopic in my eyes. It did obviously feel like a little bit of history. But through obviously Nolan's amazing direction, I think the entire cast was wonderful. Cillian Murphy as a leading man finally showed his chops and absolutely killed it. But my supporting actor for this year, is my boy Robert Downey Jr. And every time he opened his mouth in this movie, I had a big fat smile on my face because I'm like, after 10 years of being in the MCU, I'm like, my boy finally has a meaty role. And I was just so happy for him.
Yes.
He was phenomenal. Alden Ehrenreich is so freaking good in this too. But yeah, I was just blown away. The cinematography was great. The score I listened to on loop because it's so freaking good. Ludwig Göransson, oh my god, so good. This is like a perfect picture for me. I did not feel the 3-hour runtime. I could watch it like 3 or 4 times, which I do plan to by the end of the year. But it's just fantastic. It's quality filmmaking, and I think that this is Nolan's year, and I'm really hope it hits that billion soon times because they're putting it back in theaters January 5th.
Yes.
So fingers crossed.
Yes.
Yeah, if he doesn't get nominated, at least him, I just they just don't like him. I think there's no other explanation.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I agree.
Really,
I'm just
not get nominated.
What more does he have to do?
If there's one thing that he should win, I think he should win Best Director. And I'm not even. I mean, yes. Oppenheimer is in my top 15. But he does deserve Best Director. I do agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, I think if he doesn't get nominated, he still has never been nominated.
Yeah. What if he's like what if he's like the Paul Dano of directors and he just will never be nominated? I feel so bad for Paul Dano. Like, what does that boy have to do to get nominated for anything, for any Oscar? He's so good.
Although I've said for a long time, I think Paul Dano needs to like get a fruit basket for his agent because like I think he's a good actor, but he gets like such amazing roles. Like,
I know.
He really does. He was so good.
So good.
It's that much better than
There
like
Will Be Blood and Little Miss Sunshine.
Yeah, like I don't think he's that much better than like a Logan Lerman or like, you know, like other people in that age range, right? But man, he's
so good.
Yeah. But
his film he directed with Jake Gyllenhaal and Carey Mulligan was good too. So
Wildlife, yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
that was good. All right, Molly, what's your number one?
So my number one is one we've already talked about. It's Poor Things, and I'm also because I think it's one of the best book to film adaptations I've ever seen. And I read the book. And the book, it actually takes a lot of the imagery from the book because the writer, Alice Sader Gray, who is a Scottish leftist author, he would actually illustrate his books and he'd illustrate characters in them. And there's a lot of anatomy pictures that he actually implemented in there. And there's all these like drawings he would do for a bunch of his other books. And it's like, it took so much from his work, not just the words, but also just the world he created through his art. And I was just like, oh my God, this is what it is. This is what the book is like. And it actually changed the third part of the book because the third part is kind of anticlimactic. And then they changed it. And I was like, it's such a good change. But there was some stuff I thought, maybe they shouldn't have they hint that she's a socialist in the film, but in the book, she's a full-on socialist, and it actually brings up a discussion with that. And I think I've only seen British viewers be perturbed by that because, the author was a fan of Scottish independence. So, not a fan. He really wanted Scottish independence. So I think that's why it connects more to their minds. But I thought it was really good. Well done. An American studio film would not have allowed that to fly. Let's just be real here.
That's true.
So, and I thought it was so great. It was also the woman finding her own course of freedom, and of course the coming of age tale, a woman finding her own autonomy, and also the idea of sex work actually being something that's fine, and actually you can have control over that. That was a part I really liked about the film. And all this, and one of her best friends is a sex worker in there, and they become really close, and you're just, and the film never looks down on her for it. Like in the book, she's never looked down on it for engaging in that type of work. And that's just like something I loved seeing, and I loved seeing that in that Victorian steampunk setting. It was just, it was so good. It was just such an enriched world. It was just so captivating. It's one of set design, just give it set design, give it costume.
So good.
I
No, they
love
can't
the
give it set design.
I love the
They have to
soundtrack,
give
too.
set design to Barbie. If Barbie doesn't win set
Yeah, you
design,
got that.
That is
then
true.
I will.
That is true. You got a point.
You're
But
like,
You
I
guys
should
no.
do
win
have a point.
without a doubt. It
But
should win costumes
music-
and Emma Stone.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and the music was fantastic too. I love the music, and I also loved William Dafoe as Godwin. He was just so good as the father, and
He was
trying
good.
to keep everything in control. But then he's like, I can't really control her. She just has to do what she wants. And it's just, yes, that's exactly what I want, what I really liked. And it's just, I loved it. 10
Yeah.
out of 10. Perfect movie.
Very good. Well, let us know if you're listening what your favorites, least favorites, surprises, disappointments. We kind of covered it all. It was very fun. And it's good to see that people can have all different kinds of opinions. So share yours in the comments or on Twitter. We'd love to hear that. And thank you to both of you. I really do genuinely look forward to any time I can have you on. I love it so much. I was thinking, I wish that you all lived closer. We could go and see Joyride or
Oh,
I
yes.
know.
Yes.
It'd be
I
so
know,
nice. I know.
We're all
but
across.
one of these
we're all across.
years, you'll all have to come out to Sundance and
Yes. I
I've
would love
been
to.
once. I've been once. I need to go back.
that would be so
Yeah,
fun.
I need to
That
do
would be
it.
really fun.
Yes.
But Manda, how can people follow you, your content, everything?
Yeah, you guys can always follow me over at AMX ND Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. You can check out my website, candidxcinema.com, and my YouTube, Candid Cinema.
Great. And Molly, what about you?
So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram, Twitter under Raspberry Raz, or just Molly Raspberry. I don't think anybody else has that one. And then my Instagram, just Molly Raspberry. And then on my blog, where I post stuff, Mollywood Writes at WordPress.com. And sometimes some of my stuff gets published on the film stage. So some of my older stuff will also be on the film stage. So check it out.
And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure you follow the Hallmarkies podcast and all our coverage all over there of everything holiday going on right now. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps a lot. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have the Patreon group, which is a lot of fun and a great way to support. And you get monthly watch longs where we watch a lot of time Hallmark movies with the creators and writers and actors. It's really fun. So check out the Patreon, and then we have the merch store where you can get tons of fun designs, a lot of holiday designs right now. So check that out. And thanks so much to both of you, and we'll talk to y'all later. Bye. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.